In the world of Youjo Senki, weapons play a crucial role. I mean, it's a war story after all. Across the anime, manga, and light novel, we're presented with a wide range of firearms and artillery. In this video, we'll go through some of the most notable weapons that appear in Youjo Senki. As we move forward, the weapons of this list will gradually increase in caliber. As we know, Youjo Senki deliberately mixes World War I, Interwar, and World War II weapons, creating a what-if arsenal where old and new clash on the same battlefield, but with a magical twist. Trench warfare, biplanes, and bolt-action rifles exist alongside flying mages and magical artillery. This is the reason Youjo Senki's world feels so gritty, real, and terrifyingly authentic. Its war is built on our own very real, very deadly world wars. Author Carlo Zen didn't just pick cool guns, he meticulously chose weapons that fit the timeline, the nation's real-world allegories, and their tactical doctrine. Let's begin. We start this list with the Luger P-08. Seen briefly in the anime's credit illustrations, the Luger P-08 is one of Germany's most iconic pistols. Its toggle-lock action was elegant but overly complex and expensive to make, which is why it became more of a status symbol for German officers in the early 20th century, than a practical mass weapon. Its sleek design became so iconic that even today, collectors pay thousands for an authentic Luger. Next is the Mauser C96 or broom handle. Another iconic German semi-automatic pistol, the Mauser C96 is used by Tanya herself as a secondary weapon in the film. It's one of the most advanced pistols of its time, powerful, reliable, and its boxy frame and wooden stock literally turns it into a mini carbine. This was the same pistol famously carried by Winston Churchill and was exported worldwide. On the Republican side, the French Model 1892 revolver served as their standard sidearm. Historically used by the French forces in World War I, it reinforces how the Republic in Youjo Senki is heavily based on France. And finally, the Rothsteyr M1907 is an Austrian cavalry pistol used by an unnamed commander of Dacia during the battalion's first battle. It's a weird, sleek pistol that feeds from a fixed internal magazine and a subtle nod to the Austro-Hungarian influence behind Dacia's role in the story. It was the first semi-automatic pistol adopted by a major army. But pistols are just for officers and last stands. To win a war, you need rifles, and the series' historical authenticity shines brightest here. The backbone of the Imperial Army is the iconic Mauser Gur 98, the same bolt-action workhorse that defined German infantry in our World War I, accurate, strong, and the foundation of the Imperial Infantry. The Mondragon rifle. Designed in Mexico, the Mondragon was one of the first semi-automatic rifles ever produced. Initially sold to Germany during the First World War, it proved unreliable in trench conditions and was reassigned to the Air Force. The anime reflects this history by portraying it as the primary weapon of the Imperial mages. The manga pushes the tech forward into World War II territory with the Gur 43, another German semi-automatic rifle, upgraded with scopes and bayonets for mages, perfect for high-speed aerial combat. But things get really interesting with the Gustloff Bolstrom Gur. This was a real prototype for an early assault rifle. In the manga, it's the main weapon for marine mages, showing the Empire's push for advanced technology. Prototypes like this foreshadow the German STG-44, widely considered the world's first true assault rifle. On the Republican side, both the Berthier and Lebel rifles show up. These French-made rifles were widely used in World War I, once again grounding the Republic's arsenal in real-world history. The semi-automatic French rifle RSC Model 1917 was originally for cavalry. But in Youjo Senki, Republican mages mount them on their flying horse devices, one of those fun twists where reality meets fantasy. Of course, we can't forget the famous American M1 Garand. In the series, it appears in the hands of both the Entente Alliance and the Allied Kingdoms mages, reflecting its widespread historical use in World War II. General Patton quote, "The greatest battle implement ever devised." The Dacians have the Mannlicher M1893, and the Federation's rifle of choice is the Mosin Nagant, just as it was for the Russian Empire and later the Soviets. In the film, Federation troops are still seen wielding this reliable, mass-produced weapon. As the war escalates, rifles aren't enough. Now we're getting to the good stuff. the weapons that define fire superiority. For the Empire, the king is the MG-34. This is the world's first general-purpose machine gun. In the manga, it's a primary weapon for mage units, often modified for easier use in flight. It's a terrifyingly efficient bullet hose. It was nicknamed the Rolls-Royce of machine guns for its high quality, but too complex for mass production. For close quarters, we see the MP-40, a German submachine gun of World War II, though only in one of Loria's wild fantasies with Tanya carrying it, proving even delusions come armed. But one of the most fascinating stories belongs to the SIG MKMS, a Swiss SMG that, in this world, is made by the not Swiss. A copy is given to Mary Sue, and it eventually, somehow, ends up in Tanya's hands after the Battle of the Fjord. A truly bizarre journey for an obscure weapon. It was exported to South America and Finland, so its appearance in Youjo Senki is a deep-cut nod. On the support side, the Federation uses the DP-27 Dictator gun, the Soviet light machine gun famous for its pan-shaped magazine. In the movie, Federation infantry deploys it during the Battle of Tegenhof. For heavy firepower, nothing beats the classics, the German MG-08 Maxim used by Imperial Force on the Rhine front. It required entire teams and cooling water to operate, but its devastating fire defined trench warfare. On the Allied side, we see British-made Lewis guns mounted on Lagedonian bombers, its iconic top-mounted drum magazine made it the go-to for early aircraft gunners. Meanwhile, Republican forces are shown using the British Vickers machine gun. This is a minor historical mix-up. While the French Air Service used the Vickers, their infantry relied on the iconic Hotchkiss M1914, and the Soviet heavy machine gun DSHK 1938 makes an appearance as Federation forces use it against Imperial mages in the film, perfectly highlighting the clash between heavy ground fire and fast-moving aerial troops. These guns are the anchors of every defensive line. You've heard the saying, God is on the side with the best artillery. In Youjo Senki, they took that personally. We start with grenades. The Empire's standard issue is the steel hand grenade 24, or potato masher. This is an iconic German stick grenade. Tanya and the 203rd use these constantly. The fragmentation Model 39 also appears in the film as supplies for Imperial troops. The 10 cm Krupp cannon is a World War I German field gun, seen during the Northern Incident. The 8.8 cm flak. This German gun was famous and so good at anti-aircraft, they turned it on tanks, and everything else. The anime shows it firing artillery shells for ground bombardment, a tactic the Germans famously used. Historically, German crews discovered in the Civil War of Spain that the 88mm could devastate tanks, leading to its legendary reputation before World War II even started. The 15cm SFH-18 howitzer was a massive German artillery piece. In the novel, Tanya's Salamandra combat group uses it in battle. We also see other historical pieces, like the massive 28cm Krupp cannon used by Lagedónia to defend the fjords and by the Norwegian forces during World War II, and in the manga, the 2cm flak 38 anti-aircraft cannon makes an appearance. On the Republican side, we see the iconic French field guns French 75, the first modern quick-firing field gun. Its recoil system was so advanced that other armies scrambled to copy it. It was so effective that German troops nicknamed it the Devil Gun. And the 155mm GPF, both were widely used in the real world wars. But the real showstoppers are the railway guns. Anti-aircraft gun model 1939 of 85mm used by the Soviet Union mainly in its war against Germany. It served as an anti-aircraft weapon and sometimes as an anti-tank cannon. In the film, the Federation defends the airspace of its capital with these cannons. Campaign cannon model 1939 of 76mm, adopted by the Soviet Union and used extensively during the Second World War. These cannons are used by the Federation to siege the city of Tegenhof in the film. The Empire has the Krupp K5, a massive cannon on a train car, but the Federation one-ups them with the TM-3-12. This was a real monster confiscated from the Finns and used by the USSR. In the movie, its thunderous barrage officially opens the Eastern Front, and the shot is one of the most epic moments in the film. By this point, we're no longer talking about weapons you carry, we're talking about weapons that shake the battlefield. Finally, let's look at some of the unique weapons that stand out for their impact. or their controversy. The German Wechselapparat flamethrowers show up during Operation Rotating Door, carried by special Imperial units. They were first used by Germans in World War I. They're terrifying but dangerous to the user, for the tanks could explode. And the trench shotgun, model 1897, used by the US Army in World War I. This shotgun was so controversial the Germans protested its use, claiming it caused unnecessary suffering. The US flatly rejected Germany's protest, saying the shotgun caused no greater suffering than shrapnel or flamethrowers, highlighting wartime hypocrisy. Ironically, Germany's own use of flamethrowers and gas went unchallenged. In Youjo Senki, Tanya even references this fact, highlighting how brutal and ironic wartime rules could be, for in war, necessity often trumps treaty. It's a perfect example of the series using real historical weapon controversy to highlight the absurd hypocrisy of war. Now I know this video is about the weapon and their true world parallels, but magic is what sets this world apart and an essential part of the mage's equipment, so it feels wrong to left them out of a video about the weapons of this world. Not to say that there is not a true parallel that can't be found. For example, in the Youjo Senki anime, the Imperial mages take to the skies using flight packs, magical backpack-like devices that generate thrust and allow them to maneuver freely in aerial combat. While this might seem purely fantastical, our own world has been making surprising progress in a very similar direction. Modern inventors and militaries are experimenting with jetpacks and personal flight systems that echo what we see in the anime. For example, companies like Jetpack Aviation and Gravity Industries have successfully tested their jet suit capable of flying at high speeds and altitudes, and is already being tested by military units for applications like rapid boarding of ships or agile reconnaissance. Although these modern devices don't rely on magic, the principle is the same: a compact, wearable system that gives an individual soldier unprecedented mobility in the air, bringing Youjo Senki's mage flight packs closer to reality than we might have imagined. What makes it more interesting is that each company of different countries creates different backpacks, just like in the anime. Now let's talk about the computation orb. In Youjo Senki, this device is worn like chest emblems and is the core of magical combat. The novel tells us that is a tool mages use to interfere with reality through magic according to their will, a breakthrough to recreate miraculous phenomena through the combination of both mana and analog computation. It allows mages to calculate formulas mid-battle, convert magical energy, and cast complex spells with destructive force. Think of it like a magical computer fused with a weapon. The series mainly details the Imperial orbs, especially those used by Tanya and her battalion. We are told that Tanya's first orb was the standard Type 13 Standard Operation Orb, from Volker Arms Factory, not much different from orbs utilized by other nations. The most iconic weapon in Youjo Senki is Tanya's Type 95 Computation Orb. It's a prototype created by Adelheid von Schugel and his team of Elenium Arms. What makes this orb different and special from all the others is that it uses 4 cores as opposed to using only 1 like normal models do, quadrupling the output of an operation orb that uses mana in place of fuel, but at the cost of the mana consumption rate increasing by 4-fold. That was one of the problems that the engineers couldn't solve, as well as not being able to align the 4 cores. A problem the engineers concluded was impossible to solve through conventional means, until a certain divine being decided to help. The Type 95 is an experimental revolutionary orb which theoretically allows the user to reach an altitude of 18,000 feet and cast multiple spells. Its final goal is to achieve mana fixation. In the manga chapter 31, its power output is mentioned as unmeasurable. It was tampered with by Being X, who cursed it to function only if Tanya prays to God before activating its full power, making it unable to be mass-produced. That's why it's unstable, immensely powerful, and used as a last resort weapon. Being X's manipulation of the Type 95 reflects how unreliable prototypes could doom soldiers historically. Think of early tanks in World War I or experimental jet engines in World War II. And so, the orb used by her battalion and Tanya's primary orb is the Type 97. This operation orb with 2 cores and was also developed by Professor Schugel. The principle of this orb is the same as Elenium Type 95, but more stable and far inferior output, but it's still a revolutionary model generations ahead of the 1-core orbs used by the other countries. It shows how wartime tech often sacrifices raw power for reliability, a classic historical trade-off. And that is the historically grounded arsenal of Youjo Senki. These weapons are a bridge between fantasy and history, showing us how brutal technology shaped the wars of our world, and that of Tanya's. They remind us that technology is never neutral, it shapes strategy, defines nations, and decides the fate of soldiers. Now it's your turn. Which of these weapons did you find the most interesting? Do you have a favorite rifle, or maybe one of the heavy cannons impressed you the most? Did I forget to mention a weapon? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into anime warfare, smashing that like button and subscribing really helps the channel out. Ring that notification bell because many more deep dives into Youjo Senki are on the way, don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.